Traveling the world is a dream for many, offering a chance to explore new cultures, cuisines, and landscapes. However, for Black travelers, the experience can be very different. Not every country has the best marks when it comes to racial equality and would welcome them with open arms. And in some places, their skin color can lead to uncomfortable, unfair, or even dangerous situations. In some countries, you won't notice the stench of racism until a breakdown in law and order. When a social disturbance comes calling, being Black means you're more likely to be suspect, accused, or treated unfairly. This video takes a closer look at some of the worst countries for Black travelers, where racism, discrimination, and prejudice can turn a dream trip into a challenging ordeal. From being stared at, denied services, or facing outright hostility, these countries have shown through numerous accounts and experiences that they are not as welcoming as they should be. Our goal is to shed light on these issues, offering insights and advice for Black travelers to navigate these difficult landscapes. Also, as a way of supporting the channel, hit the like button of the video, share and subscribe to help the channel grow. Your support means a lot to us. For Black travelers contemplating a visit to Ukraine, the reality on the ground can be starkly different from the picturesque scenes of Kyiv's historic sites or the serene beauty of the Carpathian Mountains. While Ukraine boasts a rich cultural heritage and breathtaking landscapes, the shadow of racism and discrimination looms large, casting a long and unwelcoming pall for Black visitors seeking to experience its wonders. Black travelers to Ukraine should brace themselves for an environment where racism can surface in both overt and subtler ways. From unfriendly stares in public spaces to more aggressive racial profiling by authorities, the experience can range from deeply uncomfortable to outright hostile. The notion of a fun experience is often marred by the reality of having to navigate a society where Black people are frequently othered and marginalized. The true reality of racism in Ukraine was in full display in the beginning of the war between Ukraine and Russia. As the war between Ukraine and Russia escalated, the world watched in horror. Amidst the chaos, the international community rushed to evacuate their citizens. It was during this mass exodus that stories began to emerge from Black residents and students in Ukraine, revealing a harsh reality that went beyond the immediate dangers of the conflict. Black students and residents faced alarming levels of discrimination and racism as they attempted to flee the war-torn areas. Many reported being told explicitly by Ukrainian officials that they had to walk to the borders instead of being allowed to board evacuation vehicles like their white counterparts. These accounts were not isolated incidents but part of a troubling pattern of treatment that seemed to prioritize the safety of some over others, based purely on skin color. In the midst of the tumultuous events following Russia's invasion of Ukraine, Jessica Orakpo, a 23-year-old medical student hailing from Nigeria, and her friend Natizia, a 24-year-old economics student from Zambia, found themselves facing a tough decision to leave their university lives in Ternopil, western Ukraine, and head towards the safety of the Polish border. The journey commenced in a cab, the engine humming with urgency as they embarked at 8 a.m. one Saturday. Their destination was the Polish border, approximately 136 miles away. However, 2 hours into the journey, their hopes collided with the reality of an impassable wall of traffic. Undeterred and with a sense of determination born from necessity, Jessica and Natizia chose to continue their quest on foot, armed with only a modest collection of clothes, blankets, and crucial travel documents. By the time they drew close to the Polish border, a day later, they faced another obstacle, one that Orakpo says was prompted by her race. The Polish border, while a beacon of potential safety, also became a stage for the unsettling reality of racial discrimination. Numerous African and South Asian citizens in Ukraine shared similar experiences, and their claims found confirmation from the United Nations Refugee Agency and other authorities. Social media platforms and news outlets began to fill with first-hand accounts and videos showing Black individuals being pushed away from trains and buses, left with no choice but to make their way on foot to the borders. Some recounted walking for days, facing the bitter cold and dangerous conditions, without the aid or protection provided to others. The blatant discrimination faced by Black students and residents not only exposed them to additional dangers, but also left deep emotional scars. Many who had called Ukraine home, or had gone there with dreams of studying and building a future, were starkly reminded of the racism that still pervades many parts of the world, even in times of crisis. For Black travelers keen on exploring Ukraine, preparation and caution are key. It's advisable to research areas that are more cosmopolitan and known for their diversity and inclusiveness. Cities like Kyiv and Lviv, with their larger international communities and student populations, tend to be more accommodating and open-minded. However, the harsh reality is that no amount of preparation can fully shield Black travelers from the racism they may encounter. It's a bitter pill to swallow, especially for those who travel with the intention of broadening their horizons and experiencing new cultures. Instead of a warm embrace, they are often met with a cold shoulder, turning what should be a journey of discovery into a test of resilience. Greece, with its stunning islands and ancient history, might seem like a dream destination for many travelers. However, for Black travelers, the reality can be far less idyllic. The shadow cast by the rise of the Golden Dawn, a neo-Nazi organization with a history of racism and violence, has left a stain on Greece that continues to affect the experiences of Black visitors today. This political party emerged in the 1980s and consists of Holocaust deniers and full-blown racists that actually won seats in parliament in 2012. This, like the KKK winning seats, they used the 2009 financial crisis as an opportunity to propel themselves into power. In 2013, a Golden Dawn member unalived an anti-racist musician, Pavlos Fissas, and after the trial started in 2015, it took until 2020 for a conviction. 68 members of this political party were convicted of murder or attempted murder, and the political party was actually ruled as a criminal organization. This development has undoubtedly contributed to a climate where racism can flourish, impacting not only the country's residents, but also those who visit. The increase in racist violence documented by the Racist Violence Recording Network is particularly concerning. Attacks have not only become more frequent, but also more brazen, targeting individuals based on their race, religion, and ethnicity. For Black travelers, this creates an environment of uncertainty and fear, where a simple walk through Athens' inner-city neighborhoods could potentially turn dangerous. For Black travelers looking to explore Greece's beauty, the reality is that they must prepare for potential racism and discrimination. From stares and whispered comments to more overt acts of aggression, the range of negative experiences can taint what should be an enjoyable and enriching visit. Traveling while Black in Greece means always being on alert, knowing that while many Greeks are welcoming and hospitable, there exists a subset of the population influenced by the Golden Dawn's ideology. This can manifest in being denied service, facing harassment, or worse, becoming a victim of violence. The joy of discovering Greece's ancient ruins, beautiful beaches, and delicious cuisine is overshadowed by the need to navigate these challenges. Traveling to Germany might seem appealing due to its rich history, modern cities, and beautiful countryside. However, for African American travelers, the experience can be marred by the undercurrents of racism that still exist in certain parts of the country. Despite Germany's constitution explicitly forbidding racial discrimination, the reality on the ground can sometimes tell a different story. The debate around removing race from the constitution, with arguments such as "only racists believe there are different human races," highlights a problematic approach to addressing racism. Pretending race doesn't exist doesn't solve the problem. It merely sweeps it under the rug, leaving people of color to navigate the consequences. For African American travelers, there are specific areas in Germany that are best avoided. Places like Wismar and parts of eastern Berlin, including Marzahn and Hellersdorf, have been identified as potential hotspots for racist attitudes and behaviors. These areas could pose risks, turning what should be a pleasant exploration into a stressful, if not dangerous, experience. Traveling in Germany, African American visitors might encounter a range of negative experiences, from subtle discrimination to overt racism. This can manifest in various ways, such as being ignored by service staff, subjected to increased scrutiny by authorities, or facing outright hostility from individuals harboring racist views. The reality is that while many Germans are welcoming and open-minded, there remains a segment of the population that holds prejudiced views. This can lead to uncomfortable situations where African American travelers feel singled out or unwelcome. Germany's struggle with racism is not unique. But it is particularly disheartening in a country that prides itself on its progressive values and commitment to human rights. The reluctance to openly acknowledge and address racism only serves to perpetuate the problem, making it difficult for African American travelers to feel fully at ease. Traveling to Russia presents a unique set of challenges for African or African American travelers, far beyond the stereotypical notion of an unfriendly populace. While Russia boasts grand cities like St. Petersburg and Moscow, known for their rich history and stunning architecture, the experience for black visitors often shifts dramatically from mildly unpleasant to downright disheartening, especially beyond these metropolitan areas. The stark reality is that Russia scores dismally low in terms of being a welcoming destination for black travelers. Despite not being notorious for physical violence against black individuals, the subtler forms of racism and ill treatment that black visitors face can significantly mar their travel experience. Reports from black travelers vary widely, but a troubling number recount experiences that are far from the warm welcome one might hope for while exploring a new country. In the former Soviet Union, the portrayal of Africans as wild and Africa as a dangerous place further intensified feelings of isolation among the African community. A notable example is the 1970 Soviet children's cartoon Katarok, featuring the song Chunga Changa, which depicted Africans as jet-black, almost inhuman figures communing with wild animals. The lyrics of the song included the stanza, "Chew coconuts and eat bananas," reinforcing harmful stereotypes and potentially engendering negative feelings toward Africans. In Russia's bustling cities, the cosmopolitan vibe might give black travelers a sense of anonymity, albeit not entirely free from racial biases. However, it's in the smaller towns where the atmosphere can become more noticeably chilly. Here, the veil of anonymity thins, and black travelers often find themselves the subject of unwelcome attention. This attention isn't just curious glances but can also manifest in more problematic behaviors. Racially motivated scrutiny at train stations and border crossings is a common grievance. Black travelers report being singled out for longer questioning or having their baggage subjected to thorough searches more frequently than their white counterparts. Such treatment not only adds unnecessary stress to travel, but also serves as a constant reminder of the racial prejudices that still exist within Russian society. The 2020 incident involving Roy Ibonga, a Congolese student studying economics at Bryansk State University, sheds light on the pervasive issue of racism faced by African students in Russia. The video of the taxi driver refusing to take Roy based on his race garnered attention, revealing not only the discriminatory behavior of individuals, but also the challenges faced by African students in Russian society. In the video, the taxi driver openly admits to being racist, stating that he won't give a ride to someone he doesn't like. This incident is not an isolated one, according to Roy, who mentioned that such discriminatory treatment is a common occurrence, not only for him, but for other African students in Bryansk as well. Roy's decision to document the incident and share it on social media reflects an attempt to draw attention to the systemic racism faced by African students in Russia. The response from the Yandex taxi company, which swiftly apologized to Roy and dismissed the driver, indicates an acknowledgement of the severity of the issue. The company's stance that rude or racist drivers have no place emphasizes a commitment to maintaining a non-discriminatory environment within its services. However, the incident also highlights the broader challenges faced by African students in Russia, particularly in smaller cities like Bryansk. Roy's experience of being denied entry to a cafe based on stereotypes and prejudices about previous incidents involving other African individuals demonstrates the persistence of racial profiling and discrimination. Roy's observation that Moscow feels different from Bryansk underscores the regional variations in attitudes and experiences of racism within Russia. While Moscow may be more cosmopolitan and diverse, smaller cities might lack exposure to cultural diversity, contributing to a lack of understanding and acceptance of individuals from different racial backgrounds. The fact that Roy, who lived in Congo before coming to Russia in 2017, had never encountered racism until arriving in Russia, highlights the contrast in societal attitudes. The feelings of being dehumanized and constantly scrutinized based on race can take a toll on individuals, as Roy expressed his frustration and the stress caused by such experiences. The incident also brings attention to the online response, with some social media users expressing support for Roy, while others responded with racist insults. This dichotomy reflects the broader societal divisions and the challenges of addressing deep-seated prejudices. There's also the case of Isabel Castillo, another Afro-Russian living in the country. Isabel Castillo's experiences provide a poignant glimpse into the complex and deeply ingrained issue of racism in Russia, shedding light on the challenges faced by individuals of mixed race, the lingering effects of Soviet-era prejudices, and the broader dynamics of discrimination within the country. Growing up in Yuzhno-Sakhalinsk, Isabel faced daily discrimination and bullying at school due to her visibly different skin color. Despite attending one of the best schools specializing in math and physics, she felt isolated and unable to stand up for herself. The racial taunts and stares she endured became a daily ordeal, making her dream of relocating to a place where she could blend in without being constantly reminded of her differences. Her move to St. Petersburg provided some relief, allowing her to experience a more diverse and accepting environment. However, as she entered the workforce and sought accommodation, Isabel encountered racism again, particularly in Moscow. The discriminatory practice of landlords explicitly stating "slaves only" in rental advertisements reflects the prevalence of racial biases. Even with a valid permit to live in Moscow, Isabel faced skepticism from landlords who doubted her ability to pay rent based on her name. This illustrates how racial stereotypes can impact various aspects of life, including access to housing. Her strategy of meeting landlords in person to dispel preconceived notions highlights the burden individuals of mixed race often bear to prove their normalcy and reliability. Isabel's narrative also delves into the historical context of her parents' union, a union that faced opposition and harassment in the 1980s Soviet Union. Her mother, of Sakhalin Island origin, and her father from the Dominican Republic, faced discrimination and negative consequences for their interracial marriage. The university's reaction, downgrading her mother's academic achievements and treating her as an enemy of the people, underscores the deeply ingrained prejudices that persisted in Soviet society. The covert nature of racism in Russia means that black travelers must always be on alert. The expectation of encountering racial bias looms large, turning what should be an exciting journey of discovery into a guarded and often stressful experience. The joy of exploring Russia's cultural and natural wonders is tarnished by the need to navigate these racial undercurrents carefully. Advice for black travelers considering a trip to Russia is sobering. While the country offers much in terms of history, culture, and natural beauty, the reality of racial discrimination cannot be ignored. Precautions and awareness are essential, as is the understanding that the experience of traveling in Russia can vary greatly depending on one's skin color. Traveling to China as a person of color, especially of African descent, can come with a set of experiences that range from uncomfortable to downright discriminatory. The fascination and curiosity from locals might sound harmless at first, but it often crosses the line into invasion of personal space and outright racism. From being stared at incessantly to having strangers take photos without consent, touch your hair, or even rub your skin, these interactions highlight a profound lack of understanding and respect for personal boundaries and racial sensitivity. This behavior stems from deep-rooted issues within Chinese society, including class divisions, colorism, ethnocentrism, and a lack of exposure to diverse cultures. The notion that lighter skin is synonymous with higher social status and beauty is pervasive, affecting not just foreign visitors but also darker-skinned Chinese citizens. The situation for black people and Africans in China became particularly strained during the COVID-19 pandemic, with numerous reports of Africans being evicted from their homes and discriminated against under the guise of public health. In early April 2020, Chinese authorities in the southern city of Guangzhou, Guangdong Province, which has China's largest African community, began a campaign to forcibly test Africans for the coronavirus and ordered them to self-isolate or to quarantine in designated hotels. Landlords then evicted African residents, forcing many to sleep on the street, and hotels, shops, and restaurants refused African customers. Other foreign groups were generally not being subjected to similar treatment. Such incidents shed light on the systemic nature of racism in the country, suggesting that these are not merely isolated cases of ignorance, but indicative of a broader societal problem. Even high-profile black individuals are not immune to this discrimination. Stories of black NBA players facing racial slurs and prejudice reveal that fame and status offer little protection against the underlying racism present in some segments of Chinese society. In a video circulating on social media in 2022, Sunny Weems, a former NBA player who now plays for the Guangdong Southern Tigers at the Chinese Basketball Association, was seen getting off a bus when several fans were heard shouting the N-word repeatedly. They also told the athlete to "get out of China" as the athletes walked past the crowd. For black travelers, the expectation of a fun and enriching experience exploring China's rich history, culture, and landscapes can quickly be overshadowed by these racial dynamics. The excitement of visiting iconic sites like the Great Wall or exploring the bustling streets of Shanghai can be dampened by the constant awareness of being treated differently, if not inferiorly, based on skin color. Advice for black travelers considering a trip to China includes being prepared for undue attention and, unfortunately, discrimination. Connecting with expatriate communities or local support groups can offer a network of understanding and assistance. However, the reality remains that the societal attitudes towards race and skin color can significantly impact the overall experience of traveling in China. Traveling to India presents a complex tapestry of experiences, particularly for black travelers. Despite the country's reputation for spiritual richness, diverse cultures, and breathtaking landscapes, the reality of racism and discrimination casts a long shadow over the potential for a wholly positive experience. The treatment of African students in India provides a stark example of the challenges faced by black individuals, where stereotypes and suspicion often color interactions and procedures, such as extending visas or securing accommodation. The roots of racism in India intertwine with the deeply ingrained caste system, a hierarchy that has long dictated social status and opportunities. This system not only affects those within the traditional caste categories, but also extends its prejudice to people of color, including black travelers. The societal perception of color in India, influenced by both caste and colonial histories, often translates into a bias that favors lighter skin. This bias is evident in the aggressive treatment of Dalits, historically known as untouchables, and the similar discrimination faced by black visitors. For black travelers, this means navigating a society where their skin color can become a focal point for prejudice. Reports of African students and other black individuals facing hostility, being denied services, or subjected to verbal and sometimes physical abuse are not uncommon. In 2017, a piece by Al Jazeera revealed the experiences of African students facing racism and violence in Greater Noida, Uttar Pradesh, India. Imran Uba, a 24-year-old student from Kano, Nigeria, attending Noida International University, unexpectedly encountered a violent protest at Pari Chowk. Initially there to enjoy an ice cream, he was targeted by a mob that attacked him, mistakenly associating him with an unfounded accusation of cannibalism against Nigerian students following the mysterious death of a local teenager, Manish Kari. The mob's aggression was fueled by deep-seated stereotypes of Africans as criminals, leading to Imran being severely beaten and hospitalized. The story of the violence extends beyond Imran's ordeal, with multiple African students recounting similar incidents of racism and xenophobia. Elaine Tiende, a Cameroonian MBA student, experienced hostility and physical aggression in the market, reflecting a broader pattern of suspicion and violence towards Africans, who are often stereotyped negatively and face discrimination in their daily lives. Despite the absence of evidence, the local community quickly vilified the Nigerian students, exacerbating tensions between the African student community and the locals. The Association of African Students in India, AASI, and individual African students like Abdu Brahim Mahamat, a senior advisor to the AASI, have been actively involved in crisis management, ensuring the safety of African students and seeking justice and protection from the authorities. Despite their efforts, the response from the Indian government and law enforcement has been seen as inadequate, with a failure to publicly condemn the attacks or acknowledge their racial motivation. The incidents in Greater Noida are part of a larger pattern of racial discrimination faced by Africans in India, where everyday racism ranges from derogatory name-calling to physical assaults. African students like Zaharaddin Muhammad, Adatutu Deborah Aina, and Kumbum Bage share experiences of being marginalized and stereotyped, impacting their safety and well-being. The violence and discrimination have led to a sense of solidarity among the African students, fostering a Pan-African identity and a collective struggle for dignity and respect in a foreign land. For those looking to experience the wonders of India, it's crucial to be prepared for these realities. Seeking out communities or networks of expatriates and travelers of color can provide a support system and valuable advice on navigating these challenges. However, the underlying issue remains. In a country where societal norms and prejudices can often dictate the treatment of individuals based on skin color and perceived social status, the journey of a black traveler is fraught with potential obstacles. Traveling while black presents unique challenges that cannot be overlooked. The countries highlighted in this article are just a few examples where racism and discrimination can significantly impact the travel experience for black individuals. It's important to recognize that while these issues are prevalent in certain destinations, they do not define the entirety of these countries or their people. Many travelers of color have found welcoming communities and positive experiences even in these places. However, being aware of the potential for negative encounters is crucial for preparation and safety. The travel industry and societies worldwide have a long way to go in ensuring equality and safety for all travelers, regardless of race. Until then, sharing experiences, supporting each other with information and advice, and calling out racism when we see it are steps we can all take towards a more inclusive world. This brings us to the end of this video. Tell us what you think in the comment section, as we are always interested in your thoughts. As always, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to our channel, and share our videos to let more people know the truth about blacks and to hear their own part of the narratives. Thanks for watching.